Okay, I am going to start now. I think quite a few of you have joined here. All right. So we've so far read about Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, and then we have done Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Today I'm going to focus on Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. So he was another prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who he went through a different kind of test from Allah. Okay, so typically with prophets, we see that they are, they're humble, they're noble, but they're not very wealthy. And they seem to be tested in different ways. In the case of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, Allah tested him in a totally different way that I don't think I've read anywhere else another prophet that was tested the way he was. And I think it's important for us to know his story as well because it shows us that no matter what happens, Allah is always in charge. Allah will always have his mercy on you. And your faith and how strong your faith in Allah needs to be, no matter what trials and tribulations you go through. So, no matter how many ways Allah tests you, it's all about how much faith you have in Allah that He will, if He put you in that situation, He will take you out of it. To have that faith that Allah will do that. This is actually, and I should not have favorites, but this is one of my favorite stories of one of the prophets because of just the way you see everything. After everything that happens to him, his faith in Allah is so strong, and that's why I think it's I whenever I'm down or I feel sad about something or I feel like things are not working out for something, I always think of him and how what he went through, and then I feel I'm not going to say I feel better, but then I get definitely my faith in Allah becomes stronger, right? That if He put me in a situation, He'll definitely get me through it. So today, once again, I will read two versions of this. This one's really not, I would say, so much of a toddler version. It's more of a kids version, and then this is like the older kids version. So this one's a little longer. I'm going to start with this one for you guys. It's called The Most Patient Man. And I think that is the best way to describe Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam is that he was the most patient of men. Okay, so this one is actually, once again, the Quran Stories for Little Hearts. It's by S. Khan, and it's a part of the Good Word Kids collection. So it kind of starts out with a map. It tells you where the story is taking place right over here. I'm going to start reading it now. The Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, a great prophet who lived in the 9th century BC in Haran, near Damascus in Syria, set great examples for mankind. Besides having great wisdom and compassion, Ayyub alayhi salam was also a very rich man. Okay, so in the past, there have been prophets like Dawood alayhi salam was a king, right? So there have been prophets that have been wealthy, but he's actually comes from the line of Dawood alayhi salam. But you'll see what's going to happen to him, right? And that's where the test comes in. He had huge herds of cattle, vast fields, a large family, and many friends. Yet he remained an extremely steadfast and sincere servant of Allah and was forever calling upon others to worship him. So in our other stories, you've noticed, like for instance, with Nuh alayhi salam, it was, when people were wealthy, they thought they were wealthy because they made the money themselves. Allah didn't help them at all. Allah didn't provide them with anything. It was them who did it. In Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam's case, he knew Allah was the one who provided him with everything, and he was always thankful to Allah for that. But Satan made people think that it was only because Ayyub alayhi salam was wealthy that he lived a good life, and that if his blessings were taken away, he would no longer be grateful to Allah. So keep that in mind. Now, people will still think what they want to think, right? So some people are thinking, well, you know what? He has money. Will he be this way if all of his money was gone? To put him to test, Allah struck him with a series of calamities. His cattle and crops were destroyed, his children died, and worst of all, he became very ill, remaining bedridden for many years. So Allah didn't test him, by taking one thing away. Allah took everything away from him. So whatever Allah had given him, he took all of it back. just to see if Prophet Ayub alayhi salam would continue worshiping Allah and believing in him, or he would just give up and say, you know what, Allah's not being nice to me. I don't want to do like I don't want to um, believe in Allah anymore. Within a very short period of time, Ayub alayhi salam became very poor, and his friends left him one by one. But Ayub alayhi salam was not angry. He put his entire trust in Allah, being confident that Allah knew best about everything. And then he made this dua. So when he was at his lowest, he just couldn't, he was so ill. And you could almost say he was almost broken. He didn't stop believing in Allah. He still had faith in Allah, but he was at a very low point. That's when he made this dua. I am overcome by distress, but you are the most merciful of all those that are merciful. When his suffering and loneliness worsened and his sickness and pain became unbearable, Ayub alayhi salam turned to Allah in humble prayers, crying, I am overcome by distress, but you are the most merciful of all those that are merciful. So now he's asking for Allah's mercy. Allah heard his beautiful prayer and put an end to his long and terrible hardship. He ordered Ayub alayhi salam to strike the ground with his feet. So now imagine this. He's really sick. He can't get up. He can barely move. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, you know what? I want you to strike the ground with your feet. It's kind of hard for an ill person to do that. But he did it because he had faith in Allah. He did as commanded, and by a miracle, a spring of fresh water gushed forth. No sooner did Ayub alayhi salam take a bath in the water than his illness was cured and he regained his former health and strength. So once he took a bath in that water that Allah had commanded him to take a bath in, suddenly he was feeling much better. He was able to get up. He was strong again. Because Ayub alayhi salam had showed great patience throughout the worst of disasters, Allah not only rewarded him with great bounty in the hereafter, but redoubled his former prosperity in this world. He had a new family of 7 sons and 3 daughters. He lived to the ripe old age of 93 and saw 4 generations. He became so rich that it was said that he was reigned with locusts of gold. So locusts of gold, what that means is basically locusts, when they travel, they're these tiny, tiny insects. And when they travel, it's like a swarm of, think of like a black cloud, a swarm of black cloud when they're going from one place to the other, when they travel in groups. So that's how much gold was showered on Ayub alayhi salam. So think of how much that was. Okay, so in Ayub alayhi salam's case, he started off rich, then Allah took everything away from him just to see if he would still believe in him. And he did. He continued to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't stop. And then Allah, once he passed Allah's test, Allah gave him more than he had. So Allah didn't give him back exactly what he had before. He actually gave him more than that. So if you keep your faith on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will reward you one way or another. You may not see how it's happening, but He will reward you. Okay, now that was for the kiddos. This is for the older kids. This one, obviously, it's part of the same book. It's an elementary level book. It's by Suhaib Hamid Ghazi. This one actually has a bunch of different prophet stories in there. I'm going to, like I said, I'll focus on Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam today. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so today we're going to do Prophet Ayyub. This one's a little longer. It goes into more detail about exactly what he went through. So, and I want you guys to try to imagine everything. I'll actually stop in the middle and actually ask you guys to imagine certain things, like going yourself through those things and what you would feel like. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was a descendant of Prophet Ibrahim and of the same family as the prophets Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam. He lived in an area in the northeast part of Arabia called Huran, which is located near Palestine. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was sent as Allah's messenger to the area of Huran to guide the people towards the straight path. Most of the people of Huran did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only cared for themselves. They did not care for the rights of others. They did not help the needy or give protection to orphans. They did not share their food with the hungry or help the homeless. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam spent his days teaching the people of Huran about the greatness of Allah. He spent his nights at home with his family and in prayer for his people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam with many comforts and possessions. Prophet Ayyub lived in a beautiful house with many rooms and large windows that let the sun shine in and made the house glow. His house was an enormous piece of land, on an enormous piece of land. Every side of the house was surrounded by beautiful greenery. There were great orchards with rows of towering trees. From the branches of the trees hung sweet and juicy fruits that Ayyub's children would pick and gather in baskets. There was also rows of palm trees from which dates would hang in bunches. There were fields of waving green crops that produced many ripe and healthy vegetables. Ayyub alayhi salam and his family would harvest them and either cook them in delicious stews or make fresh salads with them. There were also large gardens that had many kinds of bright flowers and colorful plants. When the wind would blow softly, Ayyub alayhi salam and his family would walk through them and smell the sweet perfume of the flowers. In the fields around the house, Ayyub alayhi salam and his family kept many animals. They had a herd of cows which were large and healthy. They would get sweet milk from the cows and use it to make cheese and yogurt. They kept a herd of camels which were tall and strong. When they went on long journeys, they would ride on these camels in groups called caravans. They owned many sheep which were round and soft. They would take the wool from the sheep and make clothes and blankets with them. They also owned many chickens that were large and plump. They would collect the tasty eggs that the chickens would lay and would eat them for breakfast. There's a reason there's all of this is being described right now. So you need to listen to everything that's happening. They have these great land. There's all these animals that they can, really take bounty from and stuff. Like they're really well off. They have a lot of money, so they can do all of these things. But soon Allah is going to take all those things away from them. But the greatest blessings that Allah had given Prophet Ayyub was a wonderful and caring family. His wife Rahima was a loving lady who was very dear to him. She supported him when he would try to spread Allah's message to the people of Quran. When he was happy, she would be happy with him. When he was sad, she would cheer him up and make him smile. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam also had many strong and handsome sons who loved and respected their father very much. They did everything they could to please him and to keep him happy. Prophet Ayyub had many servants to help clean the house and care for the animals. Even though they weren't related to him, Ayyub treated them as if they were members of his family. He was also kind to them and he paid them generously. Many times he would help them do their work around the house or outdoors. Even though Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam had been blessed with such great wealth and property, he was never greedy or proud. He shared whatever he had with others and helped those in need. Most importantly, he always remembered to thank Allah for blessing him with all of the things he had. He would spend many hours in prayer, reciting verses and exclaiming his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was very different from many other wealthy people who forgot that all of their possessions are blessings from Allah alone. He realized that Allah had given him these blessings and that at any moment he could just as easily take them away from him. So not only was he wealthy, he had a lot of, he had cattle, he had everything. He was still very generous. So he had servants, but he would work with them. He would help them out when they needed to. He treated them as family. Okay, so he always knew that he had to be responsible to Allah. So he made sure he was kind to Allah's creations, right? the greatest test. Rumors began to spread about Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam because he had so much wealth and property. People began saying that it was impossible for Ayyub alayhi salam to be very religious since he had so much wealth and property. They also began saying that he lied about believing in Allah. They did not realize that this wealth was a test from Allah. Prophet Ayyub's life was an example for others to follow. And I want you guys to think about this. How do you think having money is a test? Right? When you have money, people don't think that, maybe they think that's a reward, maybe that they have money. But in this case, we're saying that, well, it's actually a test for him that he has money. And I want you guys to think of, how do you think it's a test? I see somebody raising their hand. Rafa, can you type out your answer for me? You think you can type it out? Or you can tell me. What do you think it is?
It's a test because like Allah will see how are you treating others with the money? Are you saying that? And if you are saying like, oh, Allah gave me money because he took it away from me and then gave it back to me because I was good. But if you like tell the people like that, oh, I have money because I was good, that Allah will take it back.
Beautiful. I love that explanation. Good job. Okay, so where were we? It showed people that where were we? Yeah, they did not realize that his wealth was a test from Allah. Prophet Ayyub's life was an example for others to follow. It showed people that even when they have wealth and comfort, they should not forget that they are blessings from Allah and they should remember to thank Him. Ayyub alayhi salam had no problem passing the test of Allah, test Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him. So he passed that test of having the money. He had the money, he made sure he took care of everybody with it, and he did not forget of Allah. Now the second test is coming for him. Allah decided to give Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam another test. Now he wanted to test Ayyub's faith by taking away all of the blessings he had given to him. If Ayyub alayhi salam was as faithful as he said he was, then he would not blame Allah or turn away from him after the blessings were replaced by tragedies. If he remained true to Allah throughout his test, then Prophet Ayyub would serve as an example to the people of how to keep faith in times of hardship. The tragedies that would test his faith came suddenly. One night, a band of thieves stole all of his animals from his farm at night. As if that were not bad enough, before they left, they also killed many of his servants. When Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam heard what had happened, he became sad, but did not get angry or upset. He knew that whatever animals he had been given were blessings from Allah, and that if they were taken from him, then Allah had decided to take them back for a good reason. He said prayers for his dear servants who had been killed and asked Allah to forgive their sins. Soon after the murder of his servants, all of Ayyub's crops and orchards were suddenly destroyed and his gardens were ruined. Once again, Ayyub alayhi salam became sad. He realized that with the destruction of his crops and animals, he would not be able to make money. But Ayyub alayhi salam still remained calm and in control. He never left his faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Allah weaken. Keep in mind now, it's okay to be sad, right? So sometimes it's when you feel sad about something, someone takes something away from you, you do feel sad, right? But you need to control your anger, because when you get angry, you might do things that you don't want to do, or you might feel bad about later. But when it's okay to feel sad about things, which is what he was doing. He felt sad that things happened. All of his stuff was taken away from him. He was sad about it, but he did not stop believing in Allah because of that. Then, just when he thought things could not get any worse, his sons died when the building they were in collapsed during an earthquake. So now there's an earthquake and he's lost all of his sons. Okay? This is the worst disaster that could ever happen to anybody, and most people thought that Ayyub alayhi salam would certainly lose his mind. Although Ayyub alayhi salam was deeply hurt and saddened by this tragedy, he once again remained calm and in control. Instead of crying and becoming angry with Allah, he thanked him for having been blessed with a chance to be the father of such fine young men. He said a prayer for his children, asking Allah to forgive their sins. So even after he's lost his children, all of them at once, he still did not lose his faith in Allah. Okay? When people went to visit and comfort him, they were surprised to see that he was not angry at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that he had not cried. He simply told them, they were never my possessions. To begin with, whatever was given to me was a blessing from Allah. He let me enjoy them until he decided to take them back. Many people never have the chance to enjoy such blessings. How can I complain? People were amazed to hear him say such things, even though they knew that he spoke the truth. So I want you guys to think of a toy that you absolutely love, just love. You cannot be without this toy. Maybe it's a security blanket or a stuffy that you have that you got as a kid. I see one of you have one up right now. Now imagine you lost it or something awful happened to it. Let's say it got accidentally thrown out and it's never coming back. Would you sit there and cry about it and get angry that it's gone? Or would you try to think of all the good memories you had with it and just be happy with that and it's okay. It's gone. Maybe it was time for it to move on. Think of it that way, right? So sometimes when we get angry, I already see one of your faces. You're like, oh, I would be so sad. And you would be sad, right? But then maybe you need to then think about, well, all the happy moments you had with it. Okay. And sometimes it's hard for us to let go of things when you want to donate stuff, right? When your parents say, I want you to donate this toy, you don't need this anymore. And you go, no, but I don't want to let it go. It's mine. Okay. But you have to then tell yourself, well, nothing belongs to me. It's all given to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes you have to let go of things, right? And still be happy with the moments you had with it. And that's what Ayyub alayhi salam did. Everything was taken away from him. But he always thought of the good things that happened with those things, and then Allah took them back. Okay? While Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was learning to live with the recent losses in his life, he suddenly became very ill. So he lost everything, and now he's sick. He could no longer walk or move without feeling great pain. His body ached all over. Then he developed a horrible disease that affected his skin. His whole body became covered with scars and sores. The disease had affected him so greatly that even his close friends and relatives stopped visiting him because he looked so scary. When people saw how his body had been changed by the disease, they would feel so sick that they would not return to him. He seemed so helpless that people began telling Rahima, Ayyub's wife, to leave him. However, Prophet Ayyub's wife was no ordinary woman. Though all the hard times, she remained by his side. She would take care of him and feed him when he could no longer move. She would hold his hand and talk to him when everyone else stayed away from him. She fed him and cared for him year after year, all by herself. So this didn't happen over a month's time. So this wasn't like, you're sick for a month and Allah says, you know what, you pass the test, I'll fix you up. No, years and years he went through this. Her friends stopped visiting because they did not want to see Ayyub alayhi salam. Can you imagine how painful it must have been for poor Ayyub alayhi salam and Rahima? So he's sick, he has no money anymore. He is, he can't, his friends don't want to see him anymore. It's not looking good for him. And this is, for many years, this happened to him. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam lived with the disease for many years and never lost faith in Allah. He heard that people in town had been saying that the tragedies were a punishment for not believing in Allah. So now people have changed it. Now saying, well, Allah's punishing him because he did something wrong. This upset Ayub alayhi salam because he had never stopped believing in Allah. Even after years of suffering with a disease and hardship, he thanked Allah for keeping him alive. One day when Ayub alayhi salam's disease was at its worst, Rahima could not bear the pressure anymore. She complained to Ayub alayhi salam, "Why is Allah punishing us like this? We have suffered enough. Please tell him to stop." The poor woman had been through so much pain and loneliness that she did not know what else to do. And we all have that breaking point, right? As humans, you get to that point where you just can't take it anymore. Ayub alayhi salam became very angry with her when he heard her complain. He looked at her and said, "We have enjoyed Allah's blessings for most of our lives. So why do you complain if he takes them away for a little while?" This is no way to show faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rahima complaint disturbed Prophet Ayub alayhi salam. He did not know how he could stop her from feeling so helpless. He was also disturbed when he heard that people were saying that Allah was probably punishing him for some great sin he must have committed. They said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not have placed so many tragedies on him if he had been a true believer. Prophet Ayub was so saddened when he heard this because it meant that people did not trust him. He cried out, "I have certainly been living in pain and misery. O Allah, you are the most merciful of those who show mercy." At that moment, Allah decided that Ayub alayhi salam had passed the test. He had proven that no matter what hardship he was placed under, he would not lose his faith in Allah. He ordered Ayub alayhi salam to strike the ground with his foot. When he did, a fountain of fresh clear water came gushing out. Ayub alayhi salam was ordered to drink the water and to take a bath in it. As he drank the water and washed himself in it, he could feel himself becoming stronger and healthier. The skin on his body started to heal before his very eyes. In no time at all, Ayub's body was back to normal. He felt better than ever. He had not had this much energy since he was a young boy. He immediately prostrated on the ground and thanked Allah for curing him for his illness. So prostrated means he went into sujood and he thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away. He ran to his wife to let her know the great news. When she saw him, she could barely even recognize him. When she realized that it was him, her eyes filled with tears of joy and she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive her for losing her patience earlier on. And she ran to embrace Ayub alayhi salam. After granting Ayub alayhi salam his health, Allah continued to shower his blessings upon Ayub and Rahima. In a matter of time, his house was repaired and his animals returned. The orchards, gardens, and fields that had been destroyed grew back beautifully. In the fields, the crops grew back healthy and vegetables dangled from their stalks. In the gardens, flowers began blooming, offering bright color and sweet perfume that filled the air. Ayub's friends and relatives began returning to visit him and congratulate him. In a few years, Ayub alayhi salam became blessed with more wealth, more property, more animals, and more friends than ever before. Most importantly, he and his wife were blessed with more wonderful children. He had never been so happy in his life, and he continued to thank Allah for as long as he lived. So Allah gave him more children and everything back and then some. A lesson to learn. Prophet Ayub lived one of the most difficult lives of any of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is hard to think of anyone in history who suffered more than he did. The most amazing quality that Ayub had was his ability to remain patient and keep his faith in Allah. He never complained or became angry. Whenever we are in a difficult situation and we feel like getting angry or losing hope, we should remember the life of Prophet Ayub alayhi salam and the positive manner in which he dealt with his problems. May Allah bless him and his family and reward him and his wife for their patience. Okay, so that was the story of Prophet Ayub alayhi salam. I'm going to quickly share with you guys the dua that he said. So when he was, remember, when he was just at his lowest of low, he just could not take it anymore, he recited this dua. Anni massani yudurru wa anta arhamur rahimin. Verily distress has seized me, and you are the most merciful of all those who show mercy. Okay? So this is a dua. It's a very quick, small dua. Once again, you can recite it when you are really feeling, when you're in distress. So when you are sick or ill, or you're feeling like you need help, this is another dua you can recite to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask him to show his mercy on you. All right. Are there any questions? I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen first. If you guys have any questions, you can type them on the side, on the right side right now, or you can unmute and ask. If not, then we are good to go.
If you have any questions, we can unmute our mics and ask. Yeah. Doesn't look like we have questions. Looks like everybody enjoyed this story. And let's hope that we can learn this dua before Taj shares next story with us, inshallah.
All right. And if you guys, once again, if you have any more questions or anything, feel free to, I guess,
email me.
Email Sister Uruj, and then she can forward it to me. And we can do it that way. All right. Thank you for coming on, guys, and I'll see you inshallah on Thursday.
Thank you, Taj, for doing that.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.